Today's episode, how I would coach Adesanya to victory to get his belt back against Pereira, with Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, number 2 coming up, or 4, depending on how you look at it. I thought it would be very fun to give you guys my opinion on what exactly I would be doing to help Adesanya win that belt back and get a victory, his first victory ever against Alex Pereira, if I was his coach. Many of you guys who follow the channel really enjoy getting inside my head and seeing how I break down opponents, how I look at who I'm competing and how I basically dissect where they're weak, where they're strong, how you go about defeating them. Israel Adesanya has just been struggling to get that win against Alex Pereira. He's fought him twice in kickboxing, lost both times, and then lost his UFC middleweight title in the 5th round against this guy, this massive, scary Brazilian fighter. So what can he do coming up to get the victory? What should he have been doing over the past 2-3 months as he was prepping up to get this victory? Now, of course, I'm not taking anything away from Adesanya's coaches or him. They are both fantastic. Been doing an amazing job in his MMA career. Adesanya, amazing kickboxing career. This is just how I see keys to victory playing out in my head when I watch their previous fight. First thing that we need to note, in a very recent video, actually from Adesanya's own YouTube channel, he has a cool channel, you should check that out if you haven't, see him doing a lot of cross training, but not cross training in this style where sort of you're out doing running. He's doing a lot of training in the pool where he's working on going under and, having that restriction of air, not being able to breathe as you want. And while I like this type of training, I don't know if it's the right path to go right now against somebody like Pereira, where the keys to victory are very clear, and you'll have them all listed out for me very soon here. But when you have somebody like Pereira and you can see that path, and then you're doing all this other stuff, which isn't necessarily gonna really matter in my opinion, I don't know if that's the route I would be taking. Or if I was his coach, I'd be telling him to focus on. But hopefully all that becomes clearer as this episode goes on. So the first thing that we see from Adesanya, which he absolutely needs to continue doing in this upcoming fight, is he needs to be twitching his head. He's twitching his head so he's ready at any moment to pull back. If Pereira hits him when he's stationary, his head is going to get jolted. That's when the brain is going to touch that skull and you have more chance of getting knocked out. But when he's moving and he gets hit, it's so much easier to take shots. He did a fantastic job of this early in the fight. As it went on, he stopped doing it with the same frequency, and that's just something which I really would say we need to ingrain this movement. We need you on the outside, we need your head twitching, we need hit and pull. If Pereira's coming, lots of movement with that head, never keeping it in place. That would basically be the drill. I would be standing in front of him with pool noodles and just throwing and twitching at him and just reminding him round after round after round, keep that head and feet in motion, but most importantly, the head. The next thing which I would be reminding him over and over and over during training is as soon as that heel touches the cage, you're backing up, you feel it touch with your peripherals, you see the cage, you feel it, as soon as there's contact, you've got to angle. And he did this very well early in the fight, but it's got to be so ingrained so he never settles. You cannot settle in this fight. That would be an absolute thing as a coach that I would be establishing from the get-go. Never, ever stop with your back to the cage. Settling here is so dangerous. It's this one place, the one point in the entire cage where he has an advantage. He has an advantage everywhere else, in my opinion, and as soon as he hits here, it just flips. And now he's disadvantaged. You can never, ever touch that cage and stop. We would be drilling that, so even if he gets hit and he gets rattled, it's ingrained in your brain so much that you can still do it. Now, in their most recent fight, the MMA one that happened, we learned something very, very important We did sort of know this from the kickboxing fights as well, but Pereira can be hurt by Adesanya. Recognizing that and knowing that, having both fighters recognize that, is massive and it cannot be forgotten. And I would be having Adesanya remember during training, if you touch him the right way, if you touch him and you clip him, this fight could be over. We don't need to go the whole fight. So I'd be working on just ingraining that constantly. How do we go about doing that? As a pad holder, as a coach, you basically create in their mind that when they hit pads, occasionally you pretend you're rattled. And we'll see some good pad holders do this very often. They have a punch. In this case for Adesanya, it's his cross in this fight. It's a scary punch for him. Pereira's a little open there. So I'll be moving around, doing the normal pad work, jab, jab, cross, getting him to fake and then put up jab, cross, and just act like I'm stunned, pretending like I'm like Pereira as I'm holding pads, and just get Adesanya used to and confident that if that cross lands, he can finish the fight and go home early. And before we go any further with coaching tips that I would have for Adesanya to get the win over Pereira, I would like to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this episode, Sleep Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. If you find like me that you toss and turn a lot during the night, you're not alone. This is something that over 70 million Americans suffer from, but the guys at Bioptimizers have made this new supplement to help those people who wake up during the night, fall asleep quickly, or as I've been doing, to take a scoop before bed to make sure that you improve the amount of time it takes for you to fall asleep and your ability to stay asleep. Now, the first thing that threw me off when I had this for the very first time was the color. I went, oh my gosh, it's got this wild blue-green color. And I went, that can't be natural. And then I looked up the ingredients and I went, oh, look at that. It's just blue spirulina. So this is healthy, it's clean, and it assists you in getting better, deeper rests. And that means instead of lying in bed stressing about things, you'll be able to drift off faster. If you want to grab some of this product, head over to sleepbreakthrough.com/Gabriel and use that promo code Gabriel10 to save 10%. And now let's return to the episode. Now, something that needs to be done when you're having that mindset that if my heel touches the cage, I'm gonna angle. Something that has to be done when you angle is you have to take attacks in between. Because if you're just constantly angling, you're essentially running. And you're giving somebody like Pereira that confidence that I can just chase this guy around. But early in the fight, we see Adesanya cut an angle, touch, cut an angle, touch. As he does this, he accomplishes two things. First of all, he keeps Pereira worried. Pereira cannot just truck forward. Also, he creates more space because Pereira will backpedal for a moment, and now Adesanya, instead of having to keep his back very close to the edge of the octagon, he can take a step forward, and now he has more distance behind him to back up when needed. Angle, attack. Angle, attack. Has to be done like that. Very, very smart to train all camp with this idea in mind. Something important that I noted when watching Alex Pereira's defense for the jab is sometimes he closes his arms. He closes them defensively, basically makes that sort of Dutch style guard, but without contact. When somebody comes like this, they're very safe up the middle. Where are they not safe? To the sides. We know Adesanya is very, very good at faking. What should he be doing? Through this entire camp, he should be practicing jab, jab, fake the jab into a long hook. This, I believe, would be something which could really, really set up that power cross and potentially even hurt Alex Pereira off the fake to the left hook. Sometimes it's just good to have setups that you drill over and over and over. We see Adesanya very often do certain things where he'll set up a technique, he'll throw something, and then he'll change directions. He should be doing this. He should be jabbing, he should be jabbing, he should be faking the jab, looking for Pereira to guard up like this, and then coming around. And then if he sees the opportunity, head off the center line and a big cross before he exits. Now, something else which is so dangerous about Pereira is if he goes first, he hits like a truck. You do not want to let this guy go first. Adesanya does much better when he is first. And basically the words that I would tell him, if I was looking at him right now, I would say, Adesanya, or Israel, be first. Yes, take your angles. Yes, fake, keep your head in motion, but be first. You do not want Alex Pereira to come forward, start throwing, and then you end up countering and in that exchange, because he just hits so hard. You want to be on the outside and you want to tag him. And you want to move, and then you want to tag him. If Alex Pereira comes forward, you want to back up. You do not want to let this guy be first. You have to be first. Now, one of the defensive moves that I like that Adesanya did in the last fight, I call it sticky hands. Hands aren't here when somebody's in front of you. Hands are out here, and you actually connect your hands to their hands, or as he did, to their wrists. Now, there are dangers here. If the guy disconnects from your grip or your hand and comes around, yes, you're very exposed, but this is actually ideal for somebody like Adesanya because his little head twitch is so fast and he's so proficient with it that he is ready at any moment to twitch back. But this makes it very difficult for Pereira to surprise him. Once you connect with somebody, any movement they do, you can feel it. And you don't have to worry about, oh, did I blink and miss something? I think these sticky hands are an ideal way for Adesanya to control the pace of the fight, to slow that pace down, and to even occasionally step to Pereira and just go, yeah, I'm here and you can't chase me. And I would like to see him drill this throughout camp, have people try to punch at him. If you guys haven't trained this before, you should try. I did it in boxing a couple times. Basically just went, I'm just putting my hands here, and head movement is constantly happening, and you're just basically stuffing people. If they go to throw a hook, you just come up. If they come with straight punches, they're just gonna catch palms. It's not my go-to. You obviously haven't seen me do this in a fight, but it is effective, and Adesanya is good at it. Now, a couple times when we see Adesanya land some big power shots, actually, most of the time, he does a fake first. Super important, gotta drill it during camp. It's either twitch the hip, boom, boom, power shot. Twitch your hand, boom, boom, power shot. Twitch, just like you're slipping, power shot. Fake before your power shots. It worked really well in the last fight and should be addressed and continued in training camp so he gets it done in the rematch. Now, realistically, as you get more fatigued, cutting those angles and sticking to that game plan gets harder and harder. But Adesanya has something that he can actually do very well, and he executed very well in the last fight. And that is when Pereira starts getting him back here, he springs in, closes the distance, gets body to body, and then spins. And he had some good success with this, even though he's fighting a much, much bigger man. Pereira is not comfortable here, and this is a good way for Adesanya to stay safe. He can work his long shots, he can work his fakes, but then if he starts to feel crowded, he can maybe get his head off the center line, push in quickly, lock body to body, and then go for that nice little spin. I think this spot here is somewhere where he should be working a lot. And as we already talked about at the beginning of the video, we see Adesanya, especially in the last camp, doing lots of things like people throwing balls against the wall. They'll throw from behind him and he'll have to trap it. And all these reflex drills, all this type of training. Yes, that's good. Yes, it's gonna up your level a little bit, but when you have something like wall wrestling, cage wrestling, where you had success last time, I would like to see him put his focus there, as opposed to being in the pool, working on breath control. He already out-cardioed Alex Pereira in the last fight with the wall wrestling, with the takedowns and the ground work. And that brings me to my next point. Try and get Pereira to the ground, because that is the safest spot for him. There is not the threat of the big KO from the bottom. Submission-wise, I don't think you're gonna see that from Pereira. And Adesanya, let's be real, he's not a grappler. He's not an overly strong guy at that weight class, at 185, but he still managed to hold Pereira down there and win those moments when they were on the ground. So if he could, instead of going in the pool and holding his breath and doing all this kind of stuff, really drill, takedowns, takedowns, takedowns. Maybe after he dummies Pereira a couple times, he fakes and then shoots down. Something like that, to me, would serve him much better. Because if he can get Pereira there, he doesn't have the threat of one shot accidentally clipping him and getting knocked out, and he can control the fight there and fatigue Pereira very, very much. Now, when we look back at Adesanya's career, he's been very successful, well, more off the right leg with that little fake, just coming up, boom. Did not work against Pereira. Why did it not work? Well, Pereira holds his arms a little different. He doesn't bite on the fakes or the fakes to the front kicks the same way that other people do. And most importantly, he is a kickboxer. His striking level, his striking knowledge is much higher than that of other people Adesanya has fought in the UFC. So I would say eliminate that. I know it's normally a massive part of his arsenal, but I would prefer him, as we already mentioned, to be working on that pump the jab, fake to the left hook, because there is an opening there. There is no opening with that question mark kick that I saw in the last fight from Pereira's defense. So cut it out. I would also like to see Adesanya attack the body after he jabs. A number of times he came in, he landed a flush jab. We see Pereira's arms come up high and the torso is really open. Now, Pereira probably has so many abs there. He's probably so darn strong, but still you land with those small little 4-ounce gloves right to the midsection a couple times, and that will take the wind out of you. So I would be having him touch the jab, head off the center line, just land that big cross occasionally. I would like that to be a part of his training camp if I was his coach. The last thing that I would tell Adesanya, and this is what basically led to the demise of him in this fight, never ever let your head get close to the cage. We already talked about not settling here against the cage, but even more so, don't settle with a straight back. If you do have to come here, get your head forward. You might go, well, why do you want your head forward? Well, that gives him the ability to draw his head back or to roll. Once you're here, it's very hard to get any movement happening, and he might have won much of the fight up until whatever it was, like the 22-minute point, and then he gets here, and as soon as he touched there, when I was watching this fight, I went, no, don't do it. Don't settle, don't stop. And he got clipped. I would be saying heel touches, as we already mentioned, touches the lower section of the cage, you cut your angle, you hit, you cut an angle again, you hit, and you create distance. If you do have to settle against the cage, you're gonna do so down here, so you can at least have that threat of a takedown, and you have that ability to recoil your head and slip shots or evade shots. Hooks come, boom, boom, you can get out of the way. Straight shot comes, at least you have a little distance to basically absorb the punch. And overall, I do believe that if Adesanya drilled this for 3 months, he could get the win against Alex Pereira in their rematch. What I'm very interested to hear is, do you guys think that he has a chance of getting the win in the upcoming fight? I know many people are skeptical because he's been knocked down against Pereira a couple times now, but don't forget, he has the ability to hurt Pereira as well. And if he did training camp right, and if he fights the right way and does not settle, I do believe he has a chance of winning this fight. A very good chance, actually. And I would like to give one final shout out to the sponsor of this episode who keeps this channel going. From Bioptimizers, we have Sleep Breakthrough. You can head over to sleepbreakthrough.com/Gabriel. Use that promo code Gabriel10 to save 10%. And I've been taking this supplement, getting my sleep on point for those nights where I'm having a restless rest, and I think you guys will enjoy this supplement. If you guys enjoyed the episode, please give it a like. If you haven't already, join the channel, get subscribed. In the comments below, let me know, what do you think about my assessment on whether Adesanya could get the win with all this done? And who do you think is going to take the win in their upcoming fight? Guys, as always, train hard. I will see you back here soon for another video.